So in this problem, we're looking at graphing two exponential functions, looking for a pattern of what uh, subtracting or adding to the variable that is the exponent does to the graph. So we're given f of x equals 2 to the x, an exponential function, and g of x equals 2 to the x minus 1. So we're subtracting 1 from the variable. Made this graph or this chart here similar to the previous problems, only we have both f of x and g of x. Uh, the actual work would have left this a little busy. So if you need to do the work, great, do it to the outside. I'll show you what I mean by that here off to the side. The same thing that we've done in the past. So when x equals negative 2, f of x, or f, I'll do it down here, f of negative 2 equals 2 to the negative 2, which equals 1/4. So f of x equals 1/4. F of x would be negative 2 1/4. And now with g of x, we have 2 to the x minus 1. So it'd be 2 to the negative 2 minus 1, which is 2 to the negative 3, which is going to be 1/8. And again, if you need to work those out, just do it separately from your table or include it in your table and just make your table bigger. I couldn't do that here, unfortunately. So g of negative 2 equals 2 to the negative 2 minus 1, which equals 2 to the negative 3, which equals 1 over 2 to the 3, which equals 1/8. So then our g of x, our point, is going to be negative 2 1/8. Performing the same process with negative x equals negative 1, 0, 1, and 2, we get f of negative 1 is going to be negative 1, 2 to the negative 1 for x equals negative 1, so that's going to be 1/2. At 0, it's 2 to the 0, which is just 1. At 1, it's going to be 2 to the 1, which is just 2. And at 2, it's going to be 2 to the 2, which is 4. That's going to give us the points negative 1 1/2, 0 1, 1 2, and 2 4. So we'll go ahead and graph f of x by plotting these points. So at negative 2, it's 1/4. At negative 1, it's 1/2. At 0, it's 1. At 1, we're at 2. And at 2, we're at 4. So it's in the negative direction, it's approaching the x-axis. In the positive direction, it's approaching infinity. So there is f of x equals 2 to the x. And now let's look at g of x. Again, when x equals negative 2, g of x equals 1/8. We did the work for that down here. Similarly, doing the work for x equals negative 1, 0, 1, and 2, we get g of negative 1 is 1/4. We get g of 0, that would be 2 to the 0 minus 1, which would be negative 2 to the negative 1, which would be 1/2. At 1, we get 2 to the 1 minus 1, which is 2 to the 0, which is just 1. And at 2, we get 2 to the 2 minus 1, which is 2 to the 1, which is just 2. And then turning those into the actual points, we have negative 1, 1/4, 0, 1/2, 1, 1, and 2, 2. So let's plot those points. -1, we're at 1/4. 0, we're at 1/2. 1, we're at 1. And 2, we're at 2. So what we should notice here, the end behavior is essentially the same. But what has happened is everything has been shifted 1 unit to the right. If you'll notice, look at the corresponding values here. Not just the graph itself. So again, we have g of x equals 2 to the x minus 1. So what did subtracting that 1 from x do? It shifted everything 1 to the right. If you'll notice, we never have a 1/8 for f of x. But if you'll notice, look at the corresponding values. At -2, f of x is 1/4. At -1, g of x is 1/4. Same thing with -1 and 0. F of x is 1/2 at -1. G of x is 1/2 at 0. 1 unit to the right. In each instance, the y value is the same 1 unit to the right. So what we've done is we've translated this by subtracting 1 from x, 1 unit to the right. And that shows that when we have g of x equals f of x, so let's say we have f of x equals a to the x, and g of x equals a to the x minus b, that means that we're shifting or translating b units to the right. Now, if it were x plus b, we'd be translating b units to the left. And this is the same as transformations that we've had in the past where the operation plus or minus is being applied to x. If you're subtracting from x, you go that many units to the right. If you're adding to x, you go that many units to the left. Which seems a little bit backwards, but just remember that horizontal shifts, it's the opposite of the sign.